Alabama folk singer is dead after she was attacked by a pair of coyotes.
What is the monkey doing? Tell me what the monkey...
He hit your face off!
We actually have a trainer in the water with one of our whales.
If I show weakness, if I retreat, I may be hurt, I may be killed.
Baby Azaria Chamberlain was taken by a dingo back in 1980.
I think the first exposure to gorillas I ever had personally was when I was a kid watching Tarzan, which is still one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. A super underrated Disney film, 1999's animated Tarzan movie. You know, bangers of songs. Phil Collins going fucking nuts. Such a great movie. But yeah, I think that was probably my first exposure to gorillas. And since then, I've always loved them. I've always had a soft spot for gorillas. And so today, we're going to talk about gorillas a lot, specifically a silverback gorilla named Elmo. Welcome back to Man Eaters, everybody, the only true crime podcast on the internet where all the killers are real animals, whether it's biting, scratchings, maulings, or clawings. We're here to talk about it. And today, we're doing something slightly different. I'm not going to go into a massive deep dive on some historical man-eater from hundreds of years ago. I want to talk about a news article or an event that happened in the news relatively recently, but it's gone viral this week on TikTok. You might have seen it. Two zookeepers were accidentally trapped in a zoo enclosure with a large male silverback gorilla named Elmo, and they barely made it out with their lives, in my opinion. And so we're going to talk about that. The event actually happened in October of last year, and I was unaware of it. I didn't hear about it at the time. I don't believe we talked about it on the show. But for whatever reason, it's gone viral on TikTok today. Someone must have uploaded it this week, and it's gone very viral. People have seen a lot of it. It's a really exciting video. If you want to look it up, just type in Google, zookeepers trapped in with gorilla or something like that. You'll find it. I just was looking before, and it is there. It's an incredible video. So before we get into the reporting around what happened, I'll just talk you through the video in case you haven't seen it. But feel free to pull it up if you're able to, but if you can't because you're driving, I'll give you a brief explanation. The video kind of begins in the midst of something going wrong. We see we see one of the trainers running to essentially the safety of a large steel door, and she goes and stands in the doorway. And then we see a large silverback gorilla that later was identified as Elmo, who is, I believe, 32 years old, but I will confirm that later. A 32-year-old silverback gorilla, massive, essentially charging after her. And then he stops and he basically has a stare-off with that zookeeper. And the zookeeper is kind of just standing in the door, kind of holding the door halfway open. And my first reaction was why is she doing that? Why doesn't she just close the door? And then it gets revealed that when the cameraman pans over, there's actually a second zookeeper in the enclosure, but she's trapped on the far side of the enclosure. The gorilla then sort of turns and charges towards a glass observation area where there is a man, and I don't know if the man is just a zoo guest or if he's some kind of zookeeper or maintenance staff. But he's standing there. He kind of runs over to the glass, which gives this other woman, this other zoo worker, the opportunity to sort of hide slightly behind a tree. And then after a little bit of a standoff, the gorilla moves again. She takes her opportunity and she bolts. She fucking gets out of there and she runs through the steel door, and they close it behind them. And so luckily no one was hurt. Elmo was fine. No one had to fucking shoot a gorilla. It's not a Harambe situation, thank God. Although we probably should talk about Harambe again today. I did an episode of Harambe, I think it was episode 10 of the show. So that's over a year and a half ago. So it's probably worth pulling some, news articles about Harambe up and reading it as well. So we're going to read, some news articles surrounding what happened with Elmo last year, and some related stuff. So this happened at Fort Worth Zoo in Texas, actually. I never had heard of Fort Worth Zoo. I've heard of Fort Worth in Texas. I knew that. It's a pretty large city. I believe Fort Worth is a population of around what would you say it is? About 1 million people? Yeah, so Wikipedia says it's about 950,000. It's the 5th most populous in the state. And yeah, the zoo. So the zoo is it's a zoo in Fort Worth, Texas, and it's home to 7,000 native and exotic animals. It has been named as a top 10 zoo in the nation by Family Life magazine. the Los Angeles Times and USA Today, as well as being one of the top zoos in the South by Southern Living Readers' Choice Award. That's quite a resume for the zoo. The zoo is accredited by both the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and the Zoological Association of America, aka the ZA. Huzzah! It's a member of the World Association of Zoos and Aquariums, so it's got quite good standing in the world. It is not. I was saying to my partner before, like, and not to disparage zoos in other countries, but when I saw this, I'm like, this isn't like it's a zoo in like Kazakhstan or in like Mongolia or something where the safety standards potentially aren't as high as they should be. And we've seen plenty of cases of people sneaking into zoos in that part of the world. Particularly in China as well, because the safety standards have not been rigorous enough. But this happened in Texas, in the United States. So, United States, not the highest level of safety in the entire world, but certainly nothing to sniff at. There is regulation there. So when I saw that this had happened at Fort Worth Zoo, a zoo with a very high standing, my question was like, well, how did this happen? This seems like a disaster. This incident could have been a lot worse. Let's just put it that way. You could be looking at one or two dead people plus a dead gorilla. It could have been a lot worse. So how did this possibly happen at Fort Worth Zoo? It's worth like talking a little bit about Fort Worth Zoo and the history of the zoo. I did a little bit of research. I couldn't find any other safety incidents apart from this. Although it is possible that because this Elmo situation happened so recently that all the other results are being pushed down and it's hard to find. But I couldn't find anything, any safety issues. No one had died at the Fort Worth Zoo as far as I could find. So let's talk a little bit about the history. So the Fort Worth Zoo opened back in 1909, over 100 years ago. And when it opened, it only had a few animals. It had one African lion, 2 bear cubs, an alligator, a coyote, and then it had a peacock and a few rabbits. Like half of those are zoo animals. The coyote, the peacock, and the rabbits, those are just like, they just live in the area, particularly the rabbits. That's like, you can get rabbits at the pet store. I don't know if you get to call that a zoo. Maybe they had like a petting zoo where it was just rabbits. I don't know. Interesting. So from its opening until 1991, the zoo was owned and operated by the city of Fort Worth. Although the city collected money from the community to purchase new animals, the Zoological Society, also now known as the Fort Worth Zoological Association, was formed in 1939 to help raise additional funds. They have an attraction called Monkey Island, which is very cute, which was built in 1937 with funds from the Work Progress Administration. After being refurbished in 1949, this exhibit became a sea lion pool, and by 1970, it had been converted into a house to house small South American mammals. Storks and cranes were housed in this exhibit in the 1980s, and it was converted once again in the early 1990s to house alligators. It last converted in 2004 to house parrots, and it is currently being used to house flamingos. Is it normal for zoos to shift the animals around in these sites? What am I saying? Is it normal to like change the exhibit so often? I don't know. I feel like they're purpose built for specific animals. I don't know. I feel like that's a lot of work to refurbish it like 10 times to sort of different animals. Like to go from from monkeys to sea lions to small mammals to birds to then alligators, then back to birds, and then now to flamingos. It seems like a lot. There is a herpetarium, which was like an aquarium for reptiles, I guess, which was completed in the summer of 1960 and was an indoor exhibit measuring 117 by 55 feet, which is about 17 meters. It boasted the largest exhibit of reptiles and amphibians in the world. That's very impressive. It had 175 vivaria. What's vivaria? Oh, Vivaria. Okay. Vivaria is a like little enclosed. It's like a little what do you call it? Not an aquarium, terrarium. It's like a little terrarium with plants. It's like a little cage for little. You know when you go to the reptile house at a zoo and you look through and on the wall they've got all the little boxes with that's a Vivaria. Okay. And it had about 200 species. The facility also included a zoo hospital and quarantine room. Features such as refrigerated air, operational skylights, temperature-controlled water, switch-operated emergency alarms, and state-of-the-art service facilities made the Herpetarium a marvel of technology for its time. Innovative exhibits such as a display of giant snakes with curved, non-reflective glass, which creates the illusion of an open-fronted exhibit, were especially popular attractions. The main public area included 5 exhibit halls covering various geographical regions, and another area that was devoted exclusively to amphibians. There was also special exhibits teaching the identification of native venomous snakes and treatment for snake bite. That is very interesting. That's a great idea. That we should. I mean, I'm sure we do have that in Australia. That's really a great idea. In October 1991, the Fort Worth Zoological Association assumed the management of the zoo under a contract with the city. In 1992, the zoo opened the first 2 of a series of exhibits, the World of Primates, where I believe this is where our today's incident happened, and Asian Falls. Asian Falls sounds like a title of a YouTube video where an old Japanese man trips over. So that is maybe the dumbest thing I've ever said on the pod. During the rest of the decade, the zoo opened Raptor Canyon, very cool, Asian Rhino Ridge, dope, an education center, that's pretty cool, I guess, in 1993, a cheetah exhibit in 1994, boom, awesome, Flamingo Bay, a Komodo dragon exhibit, dope, Insect City, fuck yeah, Meerkat Mounds. Meerkat Mounds sounds like what meerkats do. That sounds like what you have to clean up after the meerkats. Debbie, it's your turn to clean out the meerkat mounds. And they also had a new veterinary center in 1998 and Thundering Plains, now closed, in 1999. The first decade of the new millennium saw the opening of Texas Wild, ! You'd think you'd call it Wild Texas, but that's fine. In 2001 to showcase native Texan animals. Parrot Paradise in 2004. Great Barrier Reef in 2005 as part of a renovated Australian outback exhibit. Ooh, daddy like. And the Penguin exhibit in 2008. This decade also saw the closing of the original Herpetarium in 2009 to be replaced by the Museum of Living Art in 2010. So there you go. That's the history of the zoo. There is a little section here. I'm just reading Wikipedia, by the way, guys. The future. So in autumn of 2016, the zoo announced a $100 million capital campaign, a Wilder Vision, which will include new exhibit space, renovated habitats, special event space, multiple dining areas, restrooms, and most importantly, new ways to observe, interact with, and learn about animals. The first step in this plan, a renovated African savanna, opened in April of 2018. The second step in this plan, an expanded elephant exhibit, opened in April 2021. The other upcoming projects are renovated exhibits for the various African and Asian carnivores and a new forests and jungle section. Species here include the clouded leopard. That is awesome. They have a clouded leopard. African wild dogs, a Malayan tiger, an African lion, cheetah, striped hyena, Nubian ibex, plains zebra, and an African leopard for the African and Asian predators section. This area opened in June of 2023. So only a few months before Elmo. The okapi is the very first announced new species for the forest and jungle section. Okapi is like this weird, looking giraffe zebra hybrid. I always thought they were an actual hybrid, but they're not. Apparently, they just look like both. With a relocation of the Sumatran orangutans, jaguars, and the bongo. What's the bongo? The bongo is so cute. It's like an antelope, forest-dwelling antelope. The planned opening date for the forest and jungle section is spring 2025. So next year, in a year pretty much. Wow. The zoo has a bunch of main exhibits, including penguins, the world of primates, which we will talk about in detail in a moment. Elephant Springs, predators of Asia and Africa, the Raptor Canyon, Flamingo Bay, Australian Outback, and Great Barrier Reef. I'm interested what do they have here in the... Well, they also have the African Savannah and Texas Wild and the Museum of Living Art. I'm just curious. This is for my own benefit. What animals do they have in the Australian Outback / Great Barrier Reef? The exhibit includes a galah. Okay. The galahs are pretty... It's interesting. It's so funny. the animals that they've listed here are just animals that like walk around outside. I could go outside right now and see a galah. They have an Australian brush turkey. Like I saw a brush turkey yesterday on my bike ride. And they have red kangaroos, which you do not see a lot on the eastern coast. We see grey kangaroos, which are much smaller. The red kangaroos are the ones that like, they're very beefy. It's like that video of the one with holding the dog in the water. The red kangaroo lives more inland, and they're pretty scary, actually. The Great Barrier Reef exhibit is a collection of Australian aquatic animals in 3 tanks containing more than 10,000 gallons of water. The exhibit includes 500 animals representing 86 species, including clownfish, angelfish, marine coral, stingrays, and sea apples. What's a sea apple? Oh, it's like a little kind of coral-looking thing. Yeah. It's like an anemone kind of thing. Anyway, just boring. Let's get into what actually happened here. So we're going to look at Yahoo Sport. I guess that's the best. Is that really the best news article I can find, Yahoo Sport? How about the New York Post? That's a pretty good publication, isn't it? I don't know. I never know, like, with American... I know in Australia which news to avoid, because I know it's like Rupert Murdoch-owned conservative propaganda. I never know in America which ones are... Like, the Wall Street Journal... The New York Post, the Times, which is... I know the New York Times does the crossword, so I like them. But yeah, if I ever read like an article from a New York newspaper or website, and you're like, hey man, that's like conservative right-wing propaganda, let me know, because I won't read it again. But we're going to go from the New York Post now. So the title reads, Frightening Moment, Gorilla Charges at Texas Zookeepers Trapped Inside Enclosure in front of a scared crowd. Here we go. He wasn't monkeying around. That's the subtitle. Wow, good one. He wasn't monkeying around, Nicholas McIntyre, author of this article, because he's an ape, not a monkey, you dick. This was published on March 9th, 2024, so only a couple days ago when this went viral. But this event did happen last year, so let's read about it. A newly released video captured the frightening moment an adult gorilla charged at 2 defenseless zookeepers who were inside the enclosure in front of distressed onlookers. Elmo, the Fort Worth Zoo's 34-year-old male silverback gorilla, stormed out of a cave-like cutout into the view of the public as one of the employees narrowly avoided and fled to a nearby door, according to a video posted on TikTok. Quote, in it, you'll see the first keeper throwing a bucket and then running inside. Former zoo security officer Ben White, who captured the video, told the WFAA. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that the zoo staff were the ones filming. I thought it was an onlooker. Quote, she'll keep the door open for a little bit, kind of cracks, so you'll see her on our radio. Oh, okay. Radioing us. Radioing the... So you can see her through the door, and she's radioing the other keepers trying to get help. The zookeeper, now positioned in a doorway, has a stare down with Elmo as the other employee stands just feet away from the primate. Following the standoff, Elmo turned his attention to the second employee, but was distracted and charged at a man behind a nearby plexiglass window. The zookeeper repositioned herself to have a barrier between her and the gorilla so that she could drop the bucket in her hand as Elmo curiously looked around the exhibit. You'll see Elmo run around, and then you'll see the second zookeeper. She tries to distract him, hides behind a tree, plays like a really fun game of hide and seek, White says. That's interesting. That's not how I viewed it when I watched the video, but we'll talk about that in a second. Elmo is seemingly distracted a second time and runs off camera, allowing the separated zookeeper to flee to safety. At the end of the video, you'll see the gorilla actually with the bucket, like, hey, you forgot your bucket. The shocking video, which has been viewed over 42.5 million times, was captured nearly 5 months ago. It was taken on October 20th, White told the outlet. I was the first responding officer. White says the video of the scary event had recently resurfaced on his phone. I was actually just going through my camera roll and saw that I had it. There was no ulterior motive. I just posted it because I thought it was cool. Scared witnesses can be heard pleading and praying for both the employee's safety throughout the entire 2-minute-long process. Thankfully, no one was hurt during the incident. We made sure that the animal was secured and then the keepers were okay, White added. The Fort Worth Zoo said the zookeepers encountered the enclosure unaware Elmo was inside. So that's so interesting. It's like that it was a zoo employee who posted the video. I have to imagine the management of the zoo was not thrilled that like 5 months after the event, someone brought this back up and put it online so everyone could see it. Yeah, maybe he got a stern talking to. On October 20th, 2023, this is a quote, an incident led two of our zookeepers sharing a space with our 34-year-old silverback gorilla at the Fort Worth Zoo, confirmed to WFAA in a statement. Thankfully, there was no physical contact between the keepers and the gorilla, and all staff and animals are safe. Every day, the zookeepers shift the gorilla troop into their indoor habitat so that cleaners can place the animals' lunch in their outdoor habitat. Due to a keeper error, staff entered the yard unaware that the silverback was in its habitat. So yeah, if you've been to a zoo before, you'd know that the gorillas have like an inside bit and an outside bit. The outside bit is where we get to see them, and the inside bit is a bit of privacy for them. So yeah, it seems like every day the zookeepers, they would just move the gorillas inside, but somehow, I don't know, do you not do a head count? You should do a head count with your gorillas. One of the gorillas was just left inside the outdoor enclosure. Maybe he was hiding. And yeah, so they've just entered and the gorilla's just there. Wow. The zookeepers work with and train these animals every day. And thanks to their knowledge and expertise, they navigated the situation calmly and were able to exit the yard safely. Understandably, the sharing of this video has been emotional for all keepers involved. Yeah. Wow, the Fort Worth Zoo is the zoo where a baby gorilla was born following an emergency C-section earlier this year. I hadn't heard of that. Baby Jamila was born between 4 to 5 weeks early on January 5th via an emergency cesarean, the first the zoo had ever conducted. Mama Sekani was that's the name of the gorilla. Mama Sekani was expected to deliver her fourth baby in mid-February, plans that quickly changed when she was seen sulking around her enclosure and holding her head in her hands in the days leading up to the crisis operation. Damn, there you go. Yeah, that's a crazy... I'm so glad that it didn't end as badly as it could have. It seems like it was just, trainer error. I hope whoever's fault this was is able to learn from that mistake. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. You might be able to hear that. Maybe it sounds very sexy to you on the other end, but to me it just feels trash. Yeah, wow, very good. There was a in the article I was reading before, there was a link to a similar article, a zoo in Utica, which I don't know where Utica is. All I know about Utica is like that it was in The Office, because Karen Filippelli moved. Oh, it's in New York State. Well, there is a similar article. Let's read it. Let's finish talking about Elmo the gorilla first. So when I watched the video, my first thought was that the gorilla, and I'm not by any means, this is just my opinion. I'm not an expert in gorilla behavior by any stretch. That's not on my resume. But from watching the video, I was like, oh, okay, is the gorilla just like giving these guys a warning? Because at any point, this gorilla could have charged one of these women and just beaten her senseless, and killed her. I don't know. It looked like he was staring this woman down, being like, "Yep, close the door, get out, go." And when he ran over to the other side, he was kind of like, go," The zookeepers did an incredible job. Like, they kept their composure. She hid behind a tree. The article said she was doing like a game of like hide and seek, but I think she literally was just trying to like hide. I don't know what kind of object permanence gorillas have. Like dogs, when you hide behind a wall, a dog knows you're there. I imagine a gorilla's smarter than a dog, so he probably would know you're there too. Cats don't know. Cats are fucking idiots. If you put a treat under a cup, it thinks the fucking treat's gone. Yeah. Look, that's probably all there is to talk about it. That we are lucky that everyone was fine, and we're lucky that that zoo security guard uploaded the footage. It's an incredible video, incredible footage. So if you haven't watched it, go and watch it when you can. It's a pretty wild experience. It just reminds me how much I really respect zookeepers and zoo workers, especially at really good institutions like the Fort Worth Zoo. And you gotta credit Fort Worth Zoo. A lot of times when we read about incidents at zoos, like remember that San Francisco tiger attack in like the early 2000s? I was like, oh, that's terrible that a tiger attacked someone. And then you read more into it and you're like, oh, that tiger attacked like 4 guys before then and the cage was left open and a monkey went in and fucked the monkey, you know? There's always like a list of things that happened leading up to it where you're like, okay, so this probably could have been avoided if you were being a bit more careful. To Fort Worth Zoo's credit, I can't find any information about any other like prior incidents where people have been put at risk. So this seems like it purely was, you know, a trainer error. Hopefully it won't happen again. But this isn't like a symptom of a systematic failure of the zoo, which a lot of times that's what does happen. So I hope the zookeepers are doing okay. I'd love to talk to one of them. My God, if anyone knows one of these ladies and they'd like to be on the podcast, just let's organize that. That'd be great. Okay, let's read this other story, which is a little bit more depressing because someone does get hurt. This was from October 18th, 2023. I don't know if I've read this story before in a Scratch of the Day segment, but we are going to read it because it is related to what we just read. It was a Utica zoo that temporarily closed after an African lion injured a zookeeper. So from last year, this was reported on the 18th of October. So not too far away from when the Elmo incident happened, actually. Okay, apologies for my voice again, guys. The Utica Zoo is now closed one day after a staffer came in contact with one of the zoo's male African lions. On Wednesday morning, the upstate New York Zoo shared a post to Facebook stating that it would be closed to the public on October 18th to ensure our staff has time to focus on the care of themselves as well as the animals at the zoo. The zoo first shared the news that a zookeeper came into contact with one of the African lions during a routine feeding and closing procedure in a post to Facebook on Tuesday. Quote, the keeper suffered non-life-threatening injuries and was treated and is expected to be released from a local hospital this evening, the zoo's post continued, emphasizing that the public and all other staff members were not at risk and the lions had never left their enclosures. The Utica Zoo also stated that it has reached out to its accreditor, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, to inform them of the incident. In the post, Andrea Heath, the zoo's executive director, shared a statement writing that there will be no punitive action against our lions. Good, I hope not. The lions are just being lions, leave them alone. An incident occurred, which is being reviewed, will be learned from, and we are all grateful that all of our staff and animals are okay, Heath explained. The post added that the zoo's African lions will be off exhibit as the institution conducts a thorough review of its processes. In the Facebook post announcing the zoo's closure for the day, the staff thanked Utica community for their support since the incident occurred. On behalf of the zoo's staff and board of directors, we thank the majority of our community who have reached out with concern and well wishes, the post reads. The post concluded that by announcing that the zoo will reopen on Thursday, October 19th. Wow. Should we talk about Harambe real quick as well before we take our break? I think we should. Harambe is infamously, I would say, at this point, the most famous of all, what would you call it, zoo animal attacks? I guess you'd call it that. Let's read about Harambe. Maybe there's an update we can find. I mean, there's no... Sorry, update might be the wrong word because he's dead. I'm going to look for the Harambe original article because all of these posts are from like last year. Harambe will never die. He lives in within our hearts forever. Yeah, there's just a lot of memes. Okay, here we go. This looks like it's from 2016. Let's have a read. This is from The Conversation, Academic Rigor and Journalistic Flair. Wow, all right. We're going to read this article. We've covered Harambe before. You can go back and listen to that episode. But just remember, this was published in 2016. So yeah, just it may have some information that didn't come to light till afterwards. Okay. A gorilla at Cincinnati Zoo has been shot dead after a boy fell into his enclosure. When I told my wife, a former vice director of a zoo, she asked if the boy was okay, and then said how terrible for the keeper who shot the gorilla. I hadn't thought about it from the perspective of the zookeeper who pulled the trigger, but my wife was right. It must have been a terrible thing for that person, something that may haunt them for the rest of their life. From this perspective, the case reminds... What is this article? This is not a... Okay, we'll read it anyway. It's like a treatise. From this perspective, the case reminds me of the ending of John Steinbeck's novel of Mice and Men, when George has to kill his friend Lenny out of love rather than Lenny be killed by a lynch mob. Except that Harambe the gorilla, unlike Lenny, had not accidentally killed anyone. Watching the video of Harambe dragging the young boy through the moat was frightening, and whether this was done to harm the child or not, it is clear that the boy's injuries could have been far worse. Yet, Harambe was simply doing what any male gorilla would do when confronted with an intruder in his territory. Captive gorillas are trained by their keepers to go to their indoor enclosure on command, but in such an emotionally charged situation, this training does not always kick in. The two female gorillas responded to the calls of their keepers to go inside, but Harambe did not. When our adrenaline levels are sky high, I'm sure we've all failed to do what we're being told. Previous cases have ended without bloodshed, such as in 1986, incident where a boy fell into the gorilla enclosure at the Jersey Zoo in the Channel Islands. The male gorilla, Jambo, famously stood over the unconscious child and protected him, perhaps realizing that his motionlessness meant he was in distress. The keepers thus took a calculated risk based on their knowledge of Jambo's personality and behavior, and they climbed into the enclosure to rescue the boy. It is hard to imagine that zoo staff in the US, with their obsession with litigation, would dare enter an enclosure in such a situation. What other options did the zoo staff have? In the past, the threat of a dart gun would scare an animal away, or keepers could enter with the enclosure with CO2 fire extinguishers. However, these days, most zoo animals are trained to comply with veterinary and husbandry procedures, so many won't even recognize a dart gun, while extinguishers are now considered too risky to the health of the animals and anyone in the pen with them. So, advances zoos have made through husbandry training mean that some old tricks no longer work. Carrots have been so effective we've forgotten about the sticks. That's a great line of writing there, wow. If you're wondering why an instantaneous tranquilizer was not used, the answer is simple. There is no such thing. Exactly, I've always said this. It takes several minutes for tranquilizers to send large animals to sleep. Plus, once an animal is very agitated, he has massive amounts of adrenaline flowing through his veins, the tranquilizing drug may be ineffective. It would be hard to judge the correct dose. Too little could result in no effect, and too much could result in killing the animal through an overdose. Basically, the zoo is now in a lose-lose situation. For me, the big questions concern humans, not gorillas. How was it possible for the child to climb through the enclosure's barrier? This shouldn't have happened, even if the parents were not paying attention. And second, what motivated the child to do this? Perhaps he was unable to see the gorillas and his parents did not pick him up to see. So he decided to find a solution to the problem himself. Zoo enclosures should be designed so that children of all ages and heights can see the wildlife while standing on their own 2 feet, or sitting in a pushchair. The situation was tragic for all concerned, but especially for the keeper who shot the gorilla. Zoo staff, after all, do their job because they love animals. So this keeper killed Harambe because he felt he had no other choice. We can all say what if, but now is the time to learn from the lessons. That was a great article. Well done. Well done, who published this? Robert John Young, Professor of Wildlife Conservation at University of Stanford. Or Salford, sorry, not Stanford, Salford. Great article, yeah. Yeah, Harambe, Elmo, I mean, two sides of the coin. One situation ended well, one situation ended really, really poorly. But both situations could have been far worse and resulted in human life, and I think that's what we should focus on. All right, let's take a little bit of a wee break now. Take a wee break, go and do a piddle, and we'll be back with the rest of our episode. I love you. Oh, and we're back. What did you guys do with your break? You continue to work? I mean, the break is only like 15 seconds for you. The break for me is like half an hour. I looked up the rest of the episode. I looked up the news articles we're about to talk about because I was unprepared to record today. I'll be completely honest with you. It's been a big week. The theatre company I work for has put on a massive show at a big theatre. I didn't realise the Civic Theatre in Newcastle, which I work in a lot, it's one of the biggest theatres in Australia. It's beautiful. You guys should come. You guys should all come from America and have a look. Are any of you guys into theatre? I know that one person that messaged me said that they were into costume design, I think it was, or set design. That's really cool. I love that. I love when people get into like the niche areas of theatre, because everyone wants to be an actor. Everyone wants to be a director. I like when someone's like, I'm a costume designer. I fucking love that. Come here and work for me. I'd love to meet you. Okay, let's move on, guys. I know we've already read a bunch of news articles today, but let's keep that up, keep that energy going with our scratch of the day. Scratch of the day. You already know what it is, guys. It's the segment of the show where we look at animal attacks in the news and we talk about them. Oh, baby, we're going to talk about them. We've got 3 interesting animal attacks this week. We have what do we have? We have a tiger, a bear, and a shark. It's like a classic. What do you want to start with? We've got tiger, bear, shark. Let's start with tiger. All right. So, good God, this website is a nightmare. Holy shit. I'm looking at Nagpur today. It's like an Indian website. Wow, it is chock full of it's insane. This is terrible. Do I not have ad block on right now? What is going on? Jesus Christ. Okay, let's see if I can read this. Okay, this attack happened in Nagpur, which I believe is a province in India. The article headline reads, Tiger attack, deaf and mute man killed in PTR buffer zone. Okay. A deaf and mute man was killed in a tiger attack within Paoni. I'm so bad at the place names. I'm so sorry, Indians who are listening. A deaf and mute man was killed in a tiger attack within Paoni Wildlife Range of Pench in Nagaur district on Friday afternoon. The incident occurred while the man was tending to his cattle and goats within the buffer forest zone. The tiger pounced on him, resulting in fatal injuries. In the aftermath of the incident, a tense situation ensued as villagers expressed their grief and frustration towards the forest department. The agitated crowd demanded adequate compensation for the victim, which escalated the situation to a critical point before intervention by senior officials from both the forest and police departments diffused the situation. The deceased, identified as Surju Zitu Invate, 55 years old, from Kadbikheda village, owned a farm in the buffer zone under the Forest Rights Act 2006. Villagers frequently ventured into the buffer zone for various activities such as tending to their farms, grazing cattle, collecting firewood, and cutting grass. A police official reported that the incident occurred near a nulla, where the tiger was expected to be present. Being deaf and mute, Invate was unable to hear the roaring of the tiger. He regularly visited the farm throughout the same route and engaged in activities like grazing cattle and goats. At 2 p.m. on Friday, Invate fell victim to a surprise attack from the tiger, which resulted in injuries caused by the tiger's incisors. Notably, the tiger did not consume the body, according to police officials. Upon discovering Invate's body, villagers transported him back to the village. Tensions rose when the forest department officials arrived, with villagers resisting the handover of the body for post-mortem. They demanded compensation and an increased security presence against future tiger attacks. Quick action by Range Forest Officer Jayesh Tayed, Assistant Police Inspector Rajesh Patel from Deolapur Police Station, and a local public representative including Shantatai Kumar, Chand Rakant Kodwate, and Ukesh Ukai played crucial roles in diffusing the situation. Assurances from these officials led to the normalization of the situation, and the body was handed over for post-mortem. Deolapur police registered the case of an accidental death. There you go. I'm sorry, I just cannot get over how terrible this website is. It's like looking at a website in 2005, before ad blockers were a thing. Just, you know how many pop-ups you'd get? I'm surprised I haven't had a pop-up that says there's sexy women in my area. It's good, though, because if I did see that, I would be kind of interested, because I love sexy women. And I love my area. Sexy singles in your area? I'm the sexy single. Okay, sad. Not much to say. Tiger attack in India. It happens. It's sad that he was deaf and mute though. That's really rough. Okay, we're going to talk about our next victim. Was attacked by an animal. Was a survivor though. From the New York Post again. Bear attack survivor recounts how she feared she'd be scalped by angry beast in backyard nightmare. A Pittsburgh bear attack survivor has emotionally recalled from her hospital bed how she didn't believe she would be able to escape the ferocious mama bear alive after the beast pounced and tried to scalp her earlier this week in her backyard. Leanne Galante, 55 years old, said that she jumped into action to save her dog Smokey. To save her dog Smokey out after she let the pooch outside. There's a typo there. Leanne Galante, 55 years old, said she jumped into action to save her dog Smokey after she let the pooch outside around 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday without knowing a mama bear and her 3 cubs were eating from a bird feeder. I didn't want her to eat my baby. So I don't think that's how they speak in Pittsburgh, but that's what I'm going with. She told News 11. That's when the bear came after the dental hygienist, pushing her face first into the concrete and biting at her scalp and arm. She was on top of me, Galante emotionally recalled from her hospital bed. I thought I was going to die. I didn't think I was going to make it. I couldn't believe this was happening. She was pulling so hard on it, I thought I was going to get scalped. Sorry, I kind of went into Forrest Gump there. She was pulling so hard on it, I thought I was going to get scalped. Oh, I'm so insensitive to this poor woman. I'm sorry. She continued, I'm screaming. Someone please help me. I'm screaming at the top of my lungs. It was terrifying. She suffered a tear behind her ear and had to receive stitches, she told the outlet. Galante and her dog were able to get away from the angry bear, but the 55-year-old feared the bear was going to charge at her again. Once inside her home, she crawled to the kitchen to grab her phone and call 911 and to be taken to the hospital where she resides. Where she still resides, sorry. Her doctor said she was lucky to have not suffered worse injuries, according to News 11. She has a fair amount of puncture wounds on the back of her neck, on her arm itself, a pretty significant tear or lacerations across her scalp. She also has several broken bones on her nose and her face. Trauma surgeon Algente General Hospital Jennifer Chan told the outlet. The dental hygienist is expected to make a full recovery, and she's determined to still go on her trip to Italy next month, saying she's going to make it happen even if I look like this. Oh, good on her. Galante had known that there were bears spotted in the area early that week, but said she had no idea they were in her backyard. The Pennsylvania Game Commission came to locate the mama bear and her cubs hiding in a tree in the immediate area, and police reported the mother was still aggressive. Oh, this sucks. The mother bear was euthanized and the cubs were tranquilized and released on an area. What? Oh, that sucks. That's so sad. I don't know if those cubs can you just tranquilize cubs and kidnap them and put them somewhere else and expect them to survive without their mom? That's terrible. I think in that situation, that's when you take the cubs to a zoo and you raise them in the zoo, right? They just, I don't see how that would work. Okay, well, that's really sad. I get it, like, after a bear attacks someone, you don't have much choice other than to euthanize them, but the cubs, to me, that's a little bit less obvious what you would do about that. Okay, well, I hope Ms. Galante, Leanne Galante recovers fine and she gets to go on her Italy trip. Okay, all right, next and final story, a shark attack. A New Zealand woman was attacked by a shark while walking in knee-deep waters, and her recovery will be slow. New Zealand authorities reported that the victim... I'm going to have to do a New Zealand accent, aren't I? I'm going to have to do that. New Zealand authorities reported that the victim received significant lacerations to her leg that required treatment from emergency services. Terrible. The woman was bitten by a shark on Monday around 2 a.m. local time while walking in knee-deep water. Why are you walking in the water at 2 a.m., lady? At Riverton, a New Zealand estuary, the Southern District Police said in a statement on Facebook. The 21-year-old unidentified victim received significant laceration to her leg that required a treatment from hospital emergency services, the Southern District Police said. A Hatto Hone St. John ambulance spokesperson said the victim was in a serious condition and was transported to Southland Hospital. Reports RNZ. The victim's mother told the New Zealand Herald that her daughter was in the ICU and doing well after her surgery, and she still has a long recovery ahead of her. Terrible accent. She is a very strong woman. I'm going South African. She is a very strong woman, and I know that she will get through this, added the mother. Recovery will be slow. However, in time she will be okay. Law enforcement said in the statement that the time of day is a possible factor of the shark attack. Additionally, authorities speculate the shark is a 7-gill shark due to the species present in the estuary. I don't think we've ever talked about a 7-gill shark. Let's look that up. The 7-gill shark is one of the country's more common inshore sharks, per New Zealand's National Institute of Water and Atmospheric Research. This shark is a bit of a biter. This shark is a bit of a biter and may be aggressive when provoked, and can survive in just a metre of water, the NIWA notes. NIWA principal scientist Dr. Malcolm Francis shared that when the 7-gill shark's jaw is open, it looks like a saw edge. The shark has serrated teeth that slant sideways and have multiple sharp cusps. Riverton Coast Guard President Ross McKenzie told RNZ that he was surprised by the attack. As far as I'm aware, that's the first shark attack of that kind in the estuary around Riverton, McKenzie told the outlet. I've been here around 20 years, and it's the first time I've heard anything like that. But as I say, this is the first one I've known of. I don't know the history in years gone by, Mackenzie added. I don't think there have been any shark attacks in this area out of the blue, you'd hope. Sorry, this accent is becoming hard to even just follow what's going on. While Mackenzie was surprised by the news, he told RNZ that local fishermen see and catch the sharks in Riverton often, especially during the evening. Per the police statement, authorities asked those entering the water to follow safety guidelines and avoid late-night swims. There you go. Poor woman. I hope she's okay. A 7-gill shark. I'm going to Google that because I actually don't know what that looks like. Oh, that's a weird-looking shark. It looks to me, from one of the photos I'm looking at, it looks like a weird cross between a grey nurse shark and one of those Icelandic sharks. Yeah, looks like a giant anchovy. That's what it looks like. Looks like a giant anchovy. They can get up to 59 kilograms. It's actually named the broad-nosed 7-gill shark. Let's have a look where it lives. Is it just in New Zealand or is it all over the place? Looks like it lives in kind of random places. It's not an out in the ocean shark. It lives on the coast. It looks like it lives all around New Zealand, but also on the east coast, or the southeast coast of Australia, up in the Sea of Japan, around there. It looks like also on the the southern western coast of Africa, and it looks like it lives on the west coast of the United States, and also all around the coast of South America up to Brazil, where it gets a bit warm, I assume. Yeah, potentially it's a cold weather shark. There's also a little dot in the middle of the between South America and Africa. There's a little dot. There must be an island there where the sharks live as well. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. I hope she recovers well. Okay, it's time for our final segment of the day. Last week we changed the name. We're not calling it the wacky weirdo of the week anymore. We're just going to call it what's a negative? I want to call it the wonderful wanker, but not wonderful. What's a W word that's bad? The worst wanker of the day, the woeful wanker of the day. Negative words that start with W. Let's Google that. Let's come up with... I shouldn't be doing this on pod. This is a production note I should be giving myself afterwards, but let's see what happens. Negative words that start with W. The wanton, the weak, the wasteful, the wicked. That's nice. The wonky, the weird. Yeah, let's go. Let's see what we can find. They're definitely a wanker. We're gonna stick with that. Yeah. We're gonna call this the wicked wanker of the week. The weak wanker. Yeah, weak wanker. It's like you're a wanker, but you can't even do that properly. the week wanker of the week. Play the music, Jimmy. Go. Today's week wankers of the week. That's hard to say. That's probably not the name we're going to stick with. The fucking douchebags of the day. Stealing that from Philip to fuck us. Okay. They're actually back in my backyard in Adelaide. 2 women have been convicted over a house of horrors after 100 animals were found living in squalor. Let's read this article. NBN News reports. A case dubbed one of the most horrific cases ever investigated has seen 2 women in their 60s avoid jail after being convicted of animal cruelty. The RSPCA in South Australia seized 111 animals, quote, living in squalor, including almost 100 dogs, 11 kangaroos, and 11 cats in the state's mid-north. 2 of the dogs and a bird were in such bad condition they had to be euthanized. Fucking, oh my god. Oh, that is disgusting. There's a photo of a dog who is like, its fur is so matted, it looks like the dog has dreadlocks, and in certain parts of the body, it looks like it has plates of armor. That is disgusting. That is so sad. Oh my god. These fucking wankers, I hope they name these 2 women so we can dox them. Don't do that, but still. Eat a bag of crap, assholes. Okay. Dozens of other animals needed extensive vet treatment, including amputations and surgery. Oh, God. RSPCA South Australia Chief Inspector Andrew called it a house of horrors, but said dozens of animals were saved and rehomed. Man, given the fact that almost every animal required some degree of veterinary treatment, and in some cases significant treatment and rehabilitation, this was an incredible outcome for these animals after their rescue from this house of horrors, Baker said. RSPCA South Australia inspectors discovered multiple animals living in squalor at the defendant's home on November 3rd, 2020. Jesus, this is a while ago, isn't it? The occupants were registered as no way. They were registered as puppy breeders who ran a commercial dog breeding operation. It found at least 50 dogs, both loose and caged, along with caged cats and native animals such as kangaroos. There was an overwhelming odor of rubbish, feces, and ammonia, and encrusted and hardened dirt, feces, and hair covered all the floors, the RSPCA said. Gross. There was no electricity, and cages containing animals, including cats and dogs, were stacked on top of each other. Far out. A dozen kangaroos, including one with a broken leg, were found. Also found in cages were ducklings, a wattle bird, and a magpie with an injured foot. The inspectors seized 80 animals, with animal welfare notices issued regarding the remaining ones. 3 seriously ill animals, including a marsupial called a batong. Oh, they had a batong? Oh my god. And 2 dogs were put to sleep. Another 77 sick animals were rushed to the RSPCA's Lonsdale shelter. Far out. This is awful. This is terrible. Dozens of the dogs had severe dental disease and needed teeth taken out, as well as severe ear infections. Lots of dogs just get that shit when they have loving owners. Can you imagine how bad it is when they've got, like, these assholes looking after them? I shouldn't even say looking after them. They're not being looked after at all. It's just so sad. One needed part of its jaw removed, and another had to have its leg amputated. One of the dogs was put to sleep, and it was a Cavalier King Charge Spaniel, Winston, who was blind with one eye missing. Oh my god. When the RSPCA officers went back to the house on November 20 that year with police and an officer from the Department of Environmental and Water Resources, they made more upsetting finds. That included a brush-tail possum confined to a box, 28 dogs, turtles in small tanks and baths, as well as a squirrel glider and a rabbit. Another 24 animals were seized, including a Corella bird with multiple injuries which had to be put to sleep. At Adelaide's Elizabeth Magistrates Court last Tuesday, the 2 defendants pleaded guilty to 11 charges of animal ill treatment, consolidated from the original 69 charges under South Australia's Animal Welfare Act. How do you only get charged 11 times when there's 111 animals that have been, subjected to cruelty? I don't get that. The RSPCA South Australia Legal Counsel Simon Perry said the offences were so serious a jail term was required, but that it ought to be suspended given the defendant's age and lack of criminal history. What does that mean? Are they fucking 4? I mean, anyone over the age of 10 knows that you need to do better than this, unless they're like really old. They're like 90. That could be it too. Magistrate Edward Sutton Smith imposed a 6-month sentence reduced to 3 months and 18 days for the defendant's guilty plea. The sentence was suspended on a 2-year, $500 good behaviour bond. The case cost the RSPCA $46,000, but the pair were ordered to pay $2,000. What? Court orders forbid the defendants from owning animals other than one companion animal each. A total of 90 animals were rehomed and 16 transferred to other rescue organisations. RSPCA South Australia Chief Inspector Andrew Baker described the case as one of the most extreme examples of animal hoarding the organisation had dealt with. Imagine how you would feel if you brought one of those puppies and later learned the conditions in which it had been bred and kept, he said. The RSPCA is calling for reform over the case amid a review of South Australia's Animal Welfare Act. Wow. They don't name the defendants. I'm confused at why they wouldn't. This was published on the 19th of February 2024, so it's recent. What does that mean? Based on their age. It said that based on their age. Huh. That's weird. I'm confused. Does it mean they're really old or really young? If they were really old, you could name them. If they were really young, if they were children, you couldn't do it. But then why are children running a animal breeding center? Yeah. That's weird. I'm going to look that... I know that we're at the end of our episode. I need to see... I need to look into, like, what's happened here. This is terrible. Who are these people? I really want to call them out by name, unless they're children. But like, if they're old people, I don't care. I don't know. I found another article. There's a woman named Miss Fitzpatrick, Kerry Marie Fitzpatrick, who was convicted over animal cruelty charges. But I think this is in South Australia as well, in Adelaide. But I think it's a different story. What is going on in South Australia? Maybe they do need to relook at it. Okay, I don't feel confident that I can find, like, the actual 2 women who have been charged with this, so I don't want to, like, call anyone out who didn't do it. So I might leave it there. But that's really sad. That's, like, one of the sad... For some reason, I find that story sadder than some of the others. I think just the scale. Why were they... It was like they were collecting Pokemon. I get that you have, like, dogs because you're a puppy breeding... thing, and maybe cats make sense too. Why do you have a baton? Why do you have kangaroos and turtles and birds? Like, are you just going around collecting animals? It's animal hoarding. That's exactly what it is. It's sad. All right, well, those guys are our fucking woeful wankers of the day, and I wish I could name them, but I guess I can't. If you find out who they are, just flip them off. Don't actually do anything bad to them, because I don't want to get in trouble, but just, like, walk by them and just give them a little fucking finger. Flip them off. Give them the bird. In retribution for all the birds they killed, give them one of your birds. All right, Timo Supremo, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening to our episode. A news-heavy episode today. We talked about Elmo the gorilla over in Fort Worth and a few other zoo attacks. And then, of course, our scratch of the day. And finally, our disgusting wankers of the day from South Australia. Thank you so much for your continued support. As always, go do all the things. We have a website, www.maneaterspod.com. Go get yourself some swag, some merch. It really helps me out. That's the best thing you can do, is to help me out. The second best thing you can do is go over to the Patreon, patreon.com/maneaters. I think I'm going to do a little video over on the Patreon maybe today or tomorrow. I'm going to do a, what do you call it? It's not a tier list. It's like a round robin championship kind of thing. I want to see which animal I think would win in a fight. So I'm going to rank I'm going to put all the animals against each other, and we'll see who makes it to the semifinals and the finals, and of course who ends up on top. If you're interested in seeing that, head over to patreon.com/maneaters and subscribing. It really helps me out, and I really, really appreciate you, and I would give you a little kiss on the head if I could. If you have any suggestions or things you'd like to talk about, you can email maneaterspod@gmail.com, or you can message me directly over on Instagram @maneaterspodcast or @JimothyChaps. I will respond to any message I get in due course if I can. I will say, and this is a problem I never thought I'd have, and I'm very grateful, I'm getting so many direct messages from you guys now that I am struggling to keep up a little bit. I endeavor to try to like reply as much as I can, but sometimes I might just give you a little react, like a little love heart react or a little emoji, because I just don't know if I can get to everyone yet, but I'm going to still try because I love you and I love the support. So please don't stop messaging me because it's nice. What else do I want to say? Oh, thank you for listening to the last week's episode. Because I don't know what was in the water, but for some reason you guys really dug that episode. It went way better, like viewing wise, than every other episode I do. So I don't know what was special about that one, but thank you for that. Keep that up. Thank you. And the last thing I want you to do before you go, and it's been a while since I've asked for this, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcast, if that app has a rating feature for the show, like a 5-star or a review or whatever it is, can you do me a favor and leave me a review or a 5-star review? That would be great. I'm just going to check now. Where are we on Spotify? The last time I asked you guys to do this, I believe we had like less than 100 reviews, and we were like at a 3 or something like that. How do I find it? Show more. How do I see it on? Hold on. I don't know how to look it up on desktop. I don't have my phone with me. Maneaters on Spotify. Okay. It ain't there. How do I? Never mind. Hold on. All right, I'm gonna get my phone. I'm committed to this. I am committed to the bit. Commit to the bit. That's what I always say. Okay, sorry. I got my phone. So last time I think I asked you guys, I had like less than 80 reviews on Spotify. And you know, so currently we have 152 reviews on Spotify, and we're at a 4.2. So my goal would be for you guys to like help me get to 200 reviews on Spotify. And obviously making that 5 stars would look really great. So if you could do that would be good. But I guess just be honest. If you think it's not worth 5, then it's not worth 5. And of course, if you're not listening on Spotify, if you're on any of those other apps, do whatever you need to do over there as well. I'd really appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's going to do it, gang. Have a great week. I'm in a good mood today. I'm going to go eat a biscuit or something. I'm going to have some snacks, go do a little pee-pee, and yeah. I might do some errands today. You know what? I'm going to clean my house. That never happens. I'm going to go clean my house, guys. All right. Take it easy, everyone. Love your faces. You're sweet little boys and girls. And yeah, stay safe. Because as we've learned, it's a jungle out there. Bye. Little kisses. Bye. Bye. Oh, teeny little farted.